All right, I want to welcome everybody to our very first in a three-part series of our BankSouth Fraudcast, where we talk about how fraud is affecting our community and some ways that we can combat that. I'm Bryce McCuin, Director of Marketing for BankSouth, and here with me are my colleagues, Yvonne Young and Abigail Benkoski. So thank you so much for joining us and taking your time to talk about this topic. I know you talk about it all the time, so we appreciate you educating us on what's going on here locally. So Yvonne, why don't you tell us a little bit about your role at BankSouth and how you got into this particular business?
Right. So I am the AML Officer here at BankSouth, which is anti-money laundering. And I also am part of our fraud group. And I started in banking about 15 years ago as a teller and got really interested in compliance and slowly went through different paths in the career to get to my special place that I wanted to be, and that was to helping customers to avoid falling for victims of scams. And yeah.
Awesome. Abigail, what about your role here at BankSouth, and how does fraud come into play in what you do?
Yeah. So I am the deposit operations team lead, and I am working more as a liaison between Yvonne and her group with BSA and then the front line. So I'm able to take all of the information that the front line has on what has happened with this fraud event and give it to Yvonne.
Okay, cool. Before we jump in to the fraud stuff, I did have a couple icebreakers just so we can get to know you two a little bit better. You both spend your days helping protect customers from fraud, all the time. What outside of work do you do to unwind from that stress?
Mm-hmm. I'm a big traveler. If there's any long weekend, I'm normally out of town. We spend a lot of time on the lake here, enjoying the boating and the fishing.
Mm-hmm.
Abigail?
I like to read. I'm a really big book nerd. So I have my Kindle and I like to dive into a really good book. And then I also like to thrift and bake.
Okay. Nice. Okay. If you weren't in banking, what other career path would you see yourselves in?
Banking has been my only career, but when I was younger, I wanted to be a geologist. I have a natural love of rocks. I love rocks, so we're always out rock collecting when we're on vacation.
That's interesting. I would probably still be in the optical field, helping people pick out glasses. That's what my background is before I came here to BankSouth into banking. So I would probably still be there.
I actually need some new glasses, so maybe.
Me too.
Take me with you. I can help you pick them out. Like I know what to look for.
Awesome. So to help frame today's discussion a little bit, I've got a statistic that I pulled from Federal Trade Commission that you had provided with some of the information you'd sent over just for my homework. $12.5 billion in fraud in 2024, and that was a 25% increase from last year. So that's obviously a very staggering jump. So it shows how critical these conversations are. So what is, in your opinion, what is leading to so much of the fraud increase?
I believe it's advances in technology. Mm-hmm. I think you can go on just about any social media site and they can teach you how to commit this fraud. They give you step-by-steps. They advise you which banks are more I don't like that word, are easier to target. And with AI being able to, do deep fakes as well, our technology is growing faster than we are able to keep up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Just the advancements of technology, even with the stats between 1 or 2 years, is alarming as how fast it's growing.
And one of the things that, just from my side, I'm on the marketing side, so just reading a lot, but a lot of the same things are happening that have happened in the past, but technology has just been able to take that to another level, right?
Yes, definitely.
And I would think also the generational, not gap, but education with, an older generation may not understand the technology where a younger generation does. So that's really a disconnect with technology versus generations, and that's where a lot of the victims that we've seen, especially recently, are.
And like, I think about ease of use too. Like, it's just so easy to transfer money that it makes it a little bit easier to let your guard down, right?
Absolutely.
It's going to happen in a split second.
Yeah. A specific topic, and one I know you're very familiar with, Abigail, check fraud. And so that's something that you and the deposit ops team sees a good bit. What are some of the common ways criminals are altering checks and using them fraudulently?
The most common way that we see check fraud is with stolen mail. They're able to infiltrate into the USPS work system and work with either people that they've planted or people that are already employed to steal mail, and they'll take checks that have been issued to a landlord or your power company and chemically erase the ink, and so they are able to then change the payee to someone else, either their accomplice or themselves, and deposit it at another financial institution and collect the funds.
So what are alternatives to checks and safer options in today's environment, in your opinion? Yvonne, you could start.
In my opinion, we have the online bill pay. Online bill pay is still the funds are still coming out of your account, but the funds that are leaving, if a check is mailed, then it's not your account number. And then as well as doing as much ACH as possible, going directly to your vendor's website, paying directly on there, and using your debit card. Debit cards have been around for an extremely long time. They are very secure, but my biggest advice with a debit card, always tap. Don't insert. It's almost impossible to spoof a debit card when you use a tap. So that is one technology they have not caught on to yet.
Yeah.
Hopefully they do not. And we can continue to educate using that tap system.
Yeah, I actually had my information stolen from a swipe at a restaurant, and it led to multiple purchases before it was stopped. So I learned my lesson directly from that.
That was one of the things they taught us at the Fraud Academy with the Kentucky Bankers Association, is that skimming is a really big problem too, but like the tap or Apple Pay is a really good alternative if you need to use your debit card instead of a credit card.
So what can customers do if they still need to use checks, for a certain situation? How can they reduce their risk, or what are some of the things to look out for, with a check that might be alarm that it's fraudulent?
Keeping an eye on your account. Just because the same amount that you wrote the check for clears your account doesn't mean that it is the same check that you wrote. Keeping, your register with your check number, right where you can access it when you're balancing and reviewing your statements and stuff, to make sure, nothing has been changed at your check. And also I know it's kind of outdated, but hand delivering checks. If it's, feasible for you to take the check over there instead of mailing it, that's a more secure way if that check is still what's needed.
Yeah.
I feel so.
And then if you're a small business, you can also sign up with our Positive Pay. And that is putting the power in your hands to review your stuff, to make sure who it is made payable to is actually that person, and that helps prevent the fraud as well.
Yeah. Moving to another topic, BankSouth number spoofing and account takeover. It's something that we've seen a good bit within our markets. Yvonne, one of the things we're seeing more and more is the spoofing, as I mentioned, and criminals are calling and making it look like it's a call from BankSouth, when in actuality it's somebody trying to get some information. Yep. Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing, maybe an example of spoofing that's happened here.
So we've had situations recently where customers get a phone call from BankSouth Fraud Department stating that they have been compromised. They will have a lot of personal information. They could even possibly have your account numbers, and they'll ask you to verify transactions. They are very much in a hurry, putting an urgency on it, kind of getting your anxiety up. everybody's most precious commodity is their money. So when you start putting pressure on people to move money because they think that there's fraud, they're more susceptible to do it. So I can say here at BankSouth, we don't have a fraud department calling you. It would be our bankers calling you and reaching out. And if you don't know the person calling you, hang up the phone and call a branch. That is the biggest.
Yeah, if you feel uncomfortable at all, right?
Yeah,
Just hang up the
anything
phone.
that just
Yeah.
feels off, go to the branch, call the branch. We will tell you if it's us or not. And if we're asking you for your personal information, it's not us. We know your personal information already. So that is one of the biggest urgency and asking for stuff that we should already know.
Yeah. I think it's a great, I mean, fear, we were talking about this earlier, fear is such a motivator. And so you typically let your guard down or moving quickly out of that fear to address the situation, whatever it may be. I had a colleague in the past used to say, put a pause between stimulus and response. And I think that's so crucial here in these types of situations to, like, if you feel afraid, if you feel like this isn't right, if you hang up and call the actual number to verify, then that will be your best method for, making sure it's legit.
Absolutely.
Abigail, next question for you. So when these spoof calls happen, what are some of the things criminals usually are trying to get from people?
They're trying to get any kind of critical information. So like your online account information, your passwords, email address. They're trying to get your debit card number so they can do transactions, like Yvonne said, fairly quickly, because the urgency is what they're trying to do. They're trying to get in, swipe it, get out as quickly as they can and collect as much as they can. They're just trying to get, honestly, any and everything that they can get their hands on and as fast as they can.
Yeah. And I guess follow-ups for both of you. What's the best way for someone to handle a suspicious call, even if it does look like it's from your bank?
I would, if you have a banker that you work with regularly, ask to speak to that banker. If they state that they can't transfer the call, definitely, again, hang up. Go back to reaching out to who you deal with normally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you said, hang up and call the bank or your branch directly, or come into the branch. We don't do any kind of automated system. You'll speak directly to our customer care or to our bankers, and they'll be able to either yay or nay if that was really us or not.
Well, I think that emphasize the point of, relationships are important, when it's dealing with your money. So if you have somebody that you can talk to, going direct to them probably is a better route than just assuming that a call coming in is from a fraud department or, whatever it may be. So awesome. Prevention and practical tips here to kind of close us out. But what's one piece of advice that you would give to customers to stay safer from the fraud we've talked about?
Just being aware, keeping your guard up, talking through it with your family members. If you feel like something is off, always have a discussion with the people that you trust. Call us here at the bank. And yeah, we're here to help support you. And also the Sheriff's Department here in Greensboro has got a really great campaign as well. And they're always interested in hearing about what is going on in the community as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You mentioned the sheriff. So just to kind of wrap up, a lot of things we've been focused on recently because it is such a big problem that we've talked about. So we've got working with the local sheriff department to get the message, not just out to BankSouth, but to the community as a whole. We're working on a web page that will have extensive resources and try to continue the education. This will be posted there, obviously. And then we're also working on some tools for the front lines just to really emphasize the importance to stop and think before you make a large transaction or withdrawal. Because I think, we talked about this a little, I think we both talked about this, but when you are afraid, you've got blinders on typically, so to hand somebody something really needs to get to the point rather quickly, so that you can stop them in their tracks and add the pause between the stimulus and the response. So anyways, we are, as an organization, working to get more information, more education out there, and certainly appreciate all that you both do, the time that you take, and we thank you for coming in and sharing these insights. We hope that this will be helpful. Just another avenue to communicate relative to the specific issue. So thank you for your time and for joining us. And as always, we want to remind everybody to bank easy, bank safe, and bank South.